Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Carl Berryman, also accompanied by his wife, Barb. And we're going to be discussing Carl's fantastic book, 2023, World War III. Available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or if you guys want to get everything that Carl has to offer, do yourself a favor and go directly to his personal website, carlberrymanbooks.com. There, not only will you be able to find more information on Carl himself, you'll find more information on 2023, as well as find hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing page. So one more time, that's carlberrymanbooks.com. And I will say, Carl was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business. Author Reputation Press Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, move it through ARP. You can find them at authorreputationpress.com. And guys, listen, it is an absolute pleasure and such a delight to have Carl and Barb here on the line because, listen, Carl's book that we're going to be discussing today, 2023, is a fictional narrative. Now, it's created from primarily the standpoint of entertainment, but guys, it's actually going to be very informative as well. Now, Carl wrote this book in the past really as almost a warning, right? To really look into and explore how much different the world would be if China rose to be the ruling power. And this book, again, is an informative tale of what that world would look like under their regime. Now, listen, Carl is the expert, okay? He's written the book. He is going to be able to articulate all the nuances in his book much better than I ever could. So without further ado, let's go ahead. Let's bring him here on the line with us. Carl, first and foremost, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction. How are you?
Thank you. We are well.
Fantastic. Well, listen, we're very much looking forward to this. We're looking forward to all the information that you're going to be able to relay, not only for myself, but also for our listening audience as well. Now, I know we have so much to cover, but before we go into the book, let's hold off slightly. Start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself, please.
Well, educational-wise, I have a bachelor's degree in zoology from the University of Missouri, a doctorate in veterinary medicine from the University of Missouri, a master's in public health and epidemiology from the University of Minnesota, and several years training in pathology via the Army, and 2 years for a PhD in veterinary pathology at Texas A&M. I practiced for a few years chasing cows in Montana, got tired of being cold, and decided to join the Army for a vacation. Liked it and spent 22 years. I retired in 1993 as a lieutenant colonel. Since then, I went to work as an epidemiologist in a state health department. After 10 years, I retired from that, and we are living large here in Wyoming. Best place in the world.
There you have it. You know, Carl, thank you very much for articulating that. First and foremost, what an impressive background. I mean, really an impressive and very eclectic resume. We're going to have you back on the show again, Carl, not to discuss any of your books, but just to discuss your background, because I'm sure with your experiences, you have stories for days, and we'd love to hear them. So thank you very much for articulating that for our listening audience. Now, Carl, 2023, World War III is the reason why we're here today. So let's start. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, I witnessed as we all did, the fall of the former Soviet Union and the rise, if you will, the independent states, especially Central Asian republics. And I saw an opportunity here if Russia could do it to rise at least as a democracy, if not a republic. No such luck. They immediately devolved into a kleptocracy. So I saw in 1990, 1991, when I started writing this book, the rise of a militaristic China at the expense of Russia and probably the rest of the world.
Carl, talk to us about the title itself. 2023 World War III. Articulate, why did you choose that title to be the representation for your book?
I thought 2023 as the year or the time frame when China would be able to rise and become a very significant world military power. I figured it'd take them that long. And right now, if you read current events, they are challenging us. It's the rise of a militaristic Red China.
Let's go into the concept of inspiration. So as you started off by saying this was an idea and a concept that you had developed years ago. So multi-part question. First and foremost, what sparked your ideas on even going in this direction? And then two, what inspired you to write this book and put it out for the public to partake in as well?
Well, I like to look into the future as much as I can. Look 10, 20, 30 years down the road. What are the probabilities? What are the possibilities? Where will the threats come from? What can we do about them? And I wrote the book kind of as a quasi thing. One, I looked at it as if people will read it, perhaps they will become more important of my vision of the future. And I rather enjoyed reading it and doing the research for it.
Absolutely. And what a great segue that you've established for us there, Carl, because the next place that I wanted to go to was into that research that you've been able to accumulate over the years. Now, articulate to our listening audience, what type of research did you do in preparation for this book, Carl?
Well, first of all was my professional training in biological warfare. I was an NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical warfare in Korea, although my specialty per se was zoonoses, diseases transmissible between animals and man. Of which there are about 165. At any rate, I'm kind of losing my train here. At any rate, I thought that China's rise would be a potential for them to use biological weapons. I thought that their population would expand to where they could not feed themselves, and they would require additional agricultural land, which is why they expand in my book into the Central Asian republics and even into the Southeast Asian nations.
Carl, let's go a little bit more in depth with your narrative. Now, again, we know what inspired you to embark upon this journey and why this was something that you felt you wanted to put out for the public. Now, in your story, do we follow certain characters that are already in a world where China is in charge? Or are we following characters that are in a world where that is perceived to be the future? Talk to us a little bit more in depth with your narrative, please.
Well, after the fall of the Soviet Union, our politicians used to say, where's the threat? Where's the threat? So they reduced the military capabilities, cut our budget tremendously to use the money for social welfare programs to buy votes. Now, in my book, we've reached the point where we are at a critical passage, but China is not quite ready to assault the United States. That comes in my book, 2025. So the book follows generally the President of the United States and certain other characters in their response to China's invasion of its neighbors.
Fantastic. Now, Carl, you said that information comes in your book 2025. So talk to our listening audience about that progression and where the other books take off to.
Well, if I understand where you're coming from, China will continue its expansion, and they attack the United States. initiating space warfare by taking out our satellites. It's a conjunction of a temporary coalition of Russia and China to attack the United States. Russia wants Western Europe. China wants the United States for its agricultural production. So they'd start by taking over the International Space Station, killing our personnel up there, crippling all of our satellites in preparation for an invasion.
Guys, again, here on the line with Carl Berryman, we're discussing his fantastic book, 2023, World War III, available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or directly through his personal site, carlberrymanbooks.com. Now, Carl, this is all fantastic, and knowing that this is, again, something that, what I think the true power of your book lies is, first and foremost, listen, who doesn't love to just get lost in a fictional narrative, right? In a journey that they can really, especially nowadays, given this pandemic where so many of us are spending so much time at home, to be able to leave those confines of the four walls that we found ourselves stuck in. Now, I'm curious, Carl, in your journey of writing this book that has, of course, encompassed so many years, what would you say was a highlight for you in writing this book? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you that you weren't expecting prior to embarking upon the journey?
To answer the last part, no, I have not been surprised by any of the current developments. I saw the rise of China as a Western Pacific power, challenging us, taking over Taiwan, which has been a goal of nationalist China, Red China, for decades. I see their necessity for raw materials to continue to expand their economy, to expand their markets, if they don't kill them all, and expand for agriculture production to the West. They need farmland. They've ruined so much of their own. Art?
Some of what is in the book pertains to the fact that they are trying to overtake this country by really just starving our people. They shut down everything due to the EMP, but they do not destroy the earth, and they don't destroy the ability to be productive. What gets in the way is nuclear exchanges, which are covered in the book.
Guys, listen, you know what you have to do. I mean, again, this journey is something that, as much of an entertainment as it may be, this is steeped in a lot of current day fears. This is something that could come to light and really something that could be developed in the coming years. Of course, we're hoping it doesn't, but it's something that is there, that is available to potentially happen. Now, Carl, as we start to tie up this fantastic interview, what are you hoping to see people do or take from this book?
I would like to see them, become aware of the possibilities of the world threat. I see the demise, I see the degradation of our military forces. Mm-hmm. We are so much less than we were when we were in World War II. An infantry battalion had 880 people in it. Now it has 480. Same for artillery. They cut tank companies in half, from 22 tanks to 11 tanks. And, there's a continued loss of that. And to go along with this, I see a lack of what I call patriotism in our population. The youth do not today look at military service as an obligation. They look at it as much as a chance to gain training at government expense and to leave the military.
Absolutely.
How many divisions do we have today, and what are the quality of those people?
The answers to those questions given for the individual and the communities involved are within the framework of the text. In other words, he told you this might happen, But this is what you can do to prepare for it and survive.
Absolutely. Well, it all starts with that awareness, right? And Carl, that's exactly what you're talking about here. The emphasis, the point of emphasis for this book and also these books, since there are more, is primarily to bring that awareness, right? To understand the consequences of our actions today and where they'll lead tomorrow. And I think, again, that is so powerful that you recognized this years ago, continued with it, and put these books out now for the public, as, of course, your speculation years ago have started now to come to fruition. Now, Carl, last question that I'd love to ask. Listen, I'd be doing my listening audience a disservice if I didn't ask this next question. Being an artist myself, I love having this platform to be able to pay it forward, in a sense, to other artists that are out there listening in. And in this instance, other writers out there listening in. Carl, you have published multiple books now, so you are definitely an accomplished writer, hopefully more on the horizon to come. But in this part of your journey, you've definitely accumulated enough wisdom to be able to impart on our listening audience. For any new writer out there listening in, what advice would you be able to relay to them?
I think the most important thing would be to do the research, to have it well researched, where you're going to bring in facts, make them well documented. Make your characters realistic. Make them, in some cases, ordinary people, as well as those who are, should I say, more sophisticated or more given. Make the leaders responsible.
Carl, so much great advice that you gave there. And the very first thing is something that I think is so profound, right? Do the research. I mean, guys, regardless of the genre or the topic in which you're writing about, research is always a must. I mean, even if you're doing a fictional narrative, even fictional narratives sometimes are steeped in realistic circumstances. So the research needs to be done. If you're a new writer, researching how to even construct a storyline, how to put a book together. So such great advice there, Carl. Thank you so much for articulating that. Guys, you know what you got to do. I know the majority of you are listening in right now, and you've already started to go to his Amazon page, his Barnes & Noble page. You're typing in carlberrymanbooks.com right now, and you're looking into purchasing 2023. But for everybody else, first and foremost, what are you waiting for? Secondly, I'm going to say it for you one more time just to re-impress it. Here on the line with Carl Berryman and his wife, Barb, we just finished discussing 2023 World War III. Again, available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, carlberrymanbooks.com. While you're there, make sure to look into the other books that he has written as well. Listen, you surely will not be disappointed. As I stated, we're all spending a lot of time at home recently. Why not utilize this time to just get lost in a journey? Carl, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Certainly, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.